All right, folks, I'll welcome us all again. I'm James Barnes, the principal of Cunha, and welcome to our Return to Campus, Return to School Family Information Night. A lot of information on our procedures for COVID safety, how we're going to bring students back, all the particulars as much as we can. There will be a Q&A feature on this webinar, so if you have questions, you can type them into the Q&A and we'll try to answer those as we go along the way. As we get towards the end of the hour, we have a hard deadline because we will be doing this presentation in Spanish at 7 o'clock under a different web link and a different Zoom. So we'll have to get off then. So we'll try to make sure we get done with our presentation part, have time for any other questions that we can answer directly from the Q&A and speak the answers out rather than type them into the Q&A. But then we'll pop off right at 7 o'clock. So, okay, let's get going. So I introduced them before, but I'll introduce them to everybody who's just come on. We have our assistant principal, Mr. Ben Bartel, here tonight.
How's it going, everybody?
Rosie Acosta from the district office is hosting this webinar. And we have Janice Lee, our counselor, and Erin O'Connor Brown, our dean. So all these
Good evening.
are been working hard to get this presentation together, and let's go and let's roll. So here we go. First of all, there's an agenda. So the presentation is divided into 4 sections. First is the introduction and so on. But the first thing we have to look at is the 4 pillars. And you may be familiar with that, just as that is the model that San Mateo County is using for COVID safety. We'll talk about symptom checking for your students, how your students are supposed to, to try to make sure that students without COVID are the students who come here, and that students who may have symptoms or do get COVID, that we're not mixing them in with the population. And then how we're returning to school, the structure of our schedule, the rollout, and all that stuff. I've sent out packets. Some folks may have read those, but we'll try to explain it in detail. All right. So just the way that we've approached COVID and the return to school, this has been built on trust and partnership. We have spent a lot of time with maybe a good chunk of you folks in various meetings and discussions, emails, letters, thoughts. We've had opening of schools committees, we've had task forces, discussion with departments, PTO, ELAC, et cetera, to try to make sure that what we're doing here serves the needs of our community. That's the idea of trust and partnership. It doesn't mean we always agree, and it means that we sometimes have to battle things out. But this has been an ever-shifting situation, so difficult to get a hand on because you try to put things together and it slips away. You change procedures, the situation changes every day, and everybody's rolling with that. And we will all be glad when one day it is over. So just saying to please be mindful that every personal decision we make can have an impact on the loved ones of the CUSD community. So what we do to keep safe is, keeps everyone safe. So we have to be as careful as we can to preserve lives and well-being of our community. So reopening our school safely will be dependent on all our cooperation and will require vigilance from every single community member, both when they're at school and when they're at home. Being responsible and caring for our community is critical, and every one of us plays an important role in supporting the health and safety of each other. Okay, so the next section is about our 4 pillars and our students. So I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Bartel, and he will take it from here.
All right, thank you, James. Yeah, so like Mr. Barnes was saying, the commitment of San Mateo County Office of Education is following the 4 pillars, and that goes with Cabrillo Unified School District as well. So for a safe return to school, we're following these 4 pillars. And James, can you, there we go, perfect. So in order to ensure the 4 pillars, one of the things we need to do is make sure that we are enforcing physical distancing markers throughout campus. When your student gets to campus, it's going to look a lot different than it did before you left. There will be one-way arrow signs. There will be markers saying 6 feet of distance, signs about washing your hands, all these type of things. So it's going to look a lot different. Classrooms are also going to be equipped with a sanitation supply bin. Some of the things in that bin will be hand sanitizer. There'll be an air scrubber, and there'll be a plexiglass divider for all teachers and staff. There will be multiple hand washing stations around campus. So in our science classrooms, we're lucky enough to have hand washing stations in each of those rooms. There's also hand washing stations in all of the bathrooms. We're also going to be having portable hand washing stations on campus at the entrance and exit of every building. So students will have the opportunity to wash their hands in a numerous amount of ways when they're on campus. Lessons will be taught, modeled, reinforced, retaught, and a positive acknowledgement process will be developed for following the 4 pillars. And shared services will be cleaned regularly and disinfected, and shared items will be minimized. All right, face coverings and other protective gear. So students and CUSD staff will wear face coverings during their time on campus and will be permitted mask breaks while physical distancing in outdoor spaces only. Teachers and school staff will monitor face covering requirements among students and themselves. And site administrators will also monitor face covering requirements among all personnel and students. And then many parents and families have asked, can we bring their own mask? Absolutely. Extra masks will be given to each teacher in each classroom. So there'll be extra class masks there for if it gets dirty, if it breaks, we'll have extras there for you. And they'll be distributed to students who, like I said, who break them, lose them, or otherwise don't have a mask. All right, and contact tracing. So should there be any sort of COVID case on campus, we will then follow San Mateo County contact tracing protocol. So we would report a known case. Obviously, if you know of a reported case on campus, please let myself or Mr. Barnes know. And then some of the wordage we're talking about here is close contacts versus indirect contacts. So a close contact is those who have been within 6 feet of a positive case for more than 15 minutes over 24 hours. Close contacts are expected days, and indirect contacts are asked to be mindful of how they feel. If they experience any symptoms, they are encouraged to get tested and quarantine. And please refrain from any unofficial contact tracing. James?
All right. Thank you, Ben. We're going to turn it over now to Ms. O'Connor Brown to talk about symptom checking.
Okay, so I am going to speak to you tonight about our parent and student symptom checker, which we are partnering with Hazel Health. Families will be asked to fill out a daily symptom checker for each of their children. So just a word of warning, families, I filled this out. I set up the symptom checker for my own children last night. It's a little bit time consuming to set up your profile, so please do this in advance. Please don't wait till Monday morning. Sign up and fill it out in the next day or two so you have that ready. For the daily symptom checker, you will get a login and fill out the information for your child. If you get a green check, your child can proceed to school. We would like possibly, if at all possible, to provide proof of the symptom checker by either sending a screenshot of the symptom checker to your child's phone if they have one, or if possible to provide a printout confirmation that they can bring to school with them. Students whose symptoms are not completed before school will be screened by staff upon arrival. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. So we are going to post the link to these slides so that you can go back and check out the tutorials in English or Spanish for the Hazel Health tutorial. A form will be sent to your phone via text if you sign up for School Messenger, which we'll explain in the next couple slides, and emailed to you each morning. So we ask that our families please take the time to fill out the symptom checker before your child arrives at school, and if at all possible, provide your child with proof of the symptom checker so that they can be checked upon arrival. Next one, please.
Oops.
That's okay. This is a list of the various symptoms that you may encounter on the symptom checker. We want to have a symptom-free campus. So if your child wakes up with any of these listed symptoms that are new or non-chronic or non-allergy related, when you mark them on the Hazel Health Symptom Checker, there will be a prompt to provide you with information for the next steps for your family. Next slide, please. So Cunha and Cabrillo is approaching a 3-tiered approach to monitoring your child's health. First, family members will complete a health screener at home before arrival at school. Step 2, upon arrival at school, a school staff member will do a visual check of your child's and may also do a temperature check. Tier 3, teachers have the option to do a temperature check when your child arrives at their classroom. Students who arrive at school with symptoms of illness will be sent home, and students who develop symptoms of illness will rest in an isolation room while they wait for a caregiver or parent or other authorized person to pick them up. Next slide, please. This is a big one, families, so please pay attention to this. If you have not opted into the Cabrillo text messaging system, please do so. It's very important. The way our setup is you as family members have to opt in for us to be able to text you. So in order to participate in this service, you must indicate your willingness. So text any one of the following words: subscribe, opt in, or yes to 67587. You can do that right now. If you have already opted in, many of you probably have, and you get regular texts from that number, you will know. Otherwise, please opt in right now by texting 67587. You'll know that you were successful if you receive the following message. You are registered to receive approximately 3 messages per month. Text stop to quit, help for help. This is going to be very helpful in connecting you to the Hazel Health reminder, and also further information from Cunha and from Cabrillo regarding to the return to school and updates through the district. Okay. If you have multiple wireless numbers, please do it for each one. Okay, next slide, please.
I think the next section, thank you, Ms. O'Connor-Brown. I think the next section is Ms. Lee is going to discuss cohorts and the structure of our return to school.
Yes, thank you. I know we have a lot of really good questions that I'm seeing in the Q&A, so feel free to keep those coming. I definitely think we'll have time to address all of them, but I know they're very important questions, some of which I hope will be answered in this section here. So most of you already know by now, but the cohorts are divided in Group A and Group B. And Group A is comprised of the students with the last names beginning with A through L. And Group B are the students with the last names beginning M through Z. So generally speaking, those are the 2 groups that we have. And here's our schedule, which I believe most of you have seen. So Group A will be attending in the morning from approximately 8:30 to 11:20, and then we will have a break for about an hour, and then Group B will begin at 12:20 to 3:10. So keep in mind that these are the start times for classes. It would be great if your student can get here a little bit earlier, because we do have to make sure that they've been screened. The entrance process is going to be new, so of course that's going to take a little bit more time upon arrival. So I would just make sure that they arrive in adequate time so that we can get through all of that before they actually make it to their classrooms.
One thing to add to that is we are not able to provide supervised care for students before school, because we're only allowing students in just in time for classes. So if students are around long before 8:30 in the morning, we can't have them in the library. They won't be able to come on campus. So please try to consider when you drop off a student, because otherwise they can't be supervised until we let them in briefly before 8:30.
Thank you for adding that. Upon arrival, if you've been to campus recently, you'll see that there are some changes. There will be 3 main entrances to the school. And we're asking students line up to the entrance near their first class of the day. So if they have a C building class, the first class of the day, they'll need to enter by the parking lot. Sorry, y'all. 10-month-old over here. If your student has an A building or an E building class first, they'll need to enter near the library. And for D building class students, you'll enter on Kelly Street, and there are marked spacing on the entrance lines, as well as once they get on campus, they'll see directional arrows. And we understand that these are middle school students, so it's not going to be perfect, and there will be adults outside helping to direct traffic whenever possible. We're just asking that students, as much as possible, follow the directions in order to move students through campus safely and as efficiently as possible.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lee. So just want to let everybody know some certain things, and please, any of the panelists, if there's something that I've forgotten or other things on here, please chime in of anything you've thought of. Of course, masks have to be worn at all times. So students need to have a mask. Any mask will do. We want a proper mask. I think at this point, most people have masks and don't have to resort to bandanas and so on, but a proper mask of some kind. We won't be able to change in the locker room for PE. We're not going to be able to use the locker room, go in there, change clothes. All that is not COVID safe. So we'll be having PE in just the clothes they come in with. So please, your students should be wearing something that they can run around in, which is good for middle schoolers anyway. So, if they've got some sneakers, loose, comfortable clothing, shorts and t-shirts, that kind of thing, whatever's appropriate for the weather, and for them to be able to run about and have a good time during PE. So please consider that for dress, because the students will be uncomfortable if they're wearing tight or difficult clothing or difficult shoes. All right. The Chromebook. So many families took Chromebooks. Many teachers are going to want your student to bring a Chromebook. If they don't, that's fine. It can be left at home. But if teachers say, yes, you need to bring your Chromebook, then you should bring your Chromebook. You're going to have to be very careful with it. You might want to bring a charger in your backpack in case it runs out of juice. Although better, you could just make sure it's charged at night before you bring it to school. Some families may not have taken a Chromebook because they have adequate, computers at home, but you can't use a personal device on the campus. You won't be able to connect to the internet here. So if you're asked for a Chromebook, you should have a Chromebook. We do have Chromebooks available. So if you didn't check one out and you're going to use one here on campus, which is probably pretty universal that somebody's going to want you to bring a Chromebook, please arrange to pick one up, check one up from our library. Okay. So that's really important. So students will most likely need a Chromebook. And of course, teachers will be handing out potentially textbooks and novels. You're going to want to bring those. That way they don't have to be shared. Because, sometimes we have class sets, but if you have throughout, the period of the day or the days, you have multiple kids handling the same book or object, that's not as COVID safe as it could be. But since students are only going to attend 2 periods a day, it's not like they're going to have a backpack full of 7 textbooks or something like that. So parents can make sure that if they need books for the day, that they bring the ones appropriate to the periods that they're coming to school. You can bring supplies. We're supplying a lot of material. The district is supplying a ton of basic stuff like pencils and paper and so on. Departments are asking for a lot of materials. We may be giving out notebooks and so on to your students. Make sure they come equipped as normal with a backpack and the things they need, but we will be supplying a lot of material as well. Okay. Anything else from the panel that we might want to remind students to do or bring? we may think of more things later at some point.
There are several questions in the chat about Chromebooks. So unfortunately, any private device will not work with connecting to our server because of the technological safeguards that are in place. So if you return one to the library and you need to get one back, our librarian is on campus every day from 9 to 3. So she would be available tomorrow, which I see some of the people in the chat asking, and I'm sorry if that was a miscommunication. However, because of the firewalls and safeguards that the district has set up, no personal devices, including our own devices as teachers, are functional on campus. It has to be a district provided device.
Thank you. Yes. All right, well, let's move on then. I just want to note about lunch. So Cunha's continuing, or Cunha, the district's continuing its program of providing meals to families that are entitled to them. There's distributions going on around the community, and I believe those are staying where they are. There may be some changes in that, so you may hear from our food service. But now Cunha will be serving food, but not lunch, in the sense that students who come to campus in the morning and the after, when they're done with their classes, can go pick up 3 days worth of food on Mondays and 2 days worth of food on Thursdays. The same thing, the students who come in the afternoon can come pick it up, but they're going to want to, the parent is going to want to wait and let them bring that out to them, because they're going to get like a grocery bag full of food. They don't want to have that sitting around for 80 minutes in a class, in a couple of different classrooms, 160 minutes, and coming out at 3:10 with things a lot warmer than they were when they went in. So, so if you are picking up lunch it's like food that is not prepared. So you'll want to make sure you do that and get that to the parent, and the student will pick it up from the window here on campus. And that means, folks, that students who are in the morning will leave campus and will have to go home or wherever they're going to go for lunch. Likewise, the afternoon cohort will need to eat before they come, because we won't have prepared food for them. So that stuff is frozen. It's multiple days worth of food that parents can use. So just be aware of that, how the meal distribution is going to continue on Wednesdays in the other places, but now Cunha on Mondays and Thursdays. Okay, so the last slide, just a thank you for being here, and we're going to have lots of time to answer questions. We look forward to the time when these policies are no longer necessary. I tell you what, but we are very appreciative of your partnership. There's no way we could have done this without parents working so hard to get their kids, through remote learning. And now we're asking you to uphold the policies when they're back in school in order to have a safe campus and a good experience for our kids the rest of this school year back in school. So a safe environment for your children, our whole school community, and all the loved ones at home. So thank you very much. All right, I'm going to end the presentation here, and we'll take a look at the chat. Are there some questions that we need that I could address? Anybody or any of us like to address?
Yeah, I can address one. We're getting one about transportation and busing. We are working with our partners with Samtrans. I've been on the phone with them the last couple of weeks. But they're having many of the same issues that we're having as a school with limited capacity on buses. Their largest bus only fits 15 riders. So there will be limited availability of busing before and after school, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think parents should really consider not being able to rely on that form of transportation to get the kids to school. It's just not enough seats and not enough buses to make that something you could depend on. Unfortunately, it's different, but we have the bus system that we have. Okay, there's some good questions on here. There's a question about quarantine requirement if people leave the country. Ben, do you remember what the rules are on that?
I literally got it today. I'd have to pull my email and look.
I think for out of state, it's not that bad. We expect people just to make sure you're staying safe, and that if you feel the need to quarantine, or if a COVID test can help, that's outside of 120 miles into the area. But there is, I believe, a quarantine requirement for out of the country visits. I'll move on, and Ben can perhaps come back with that information so you're clear on it. Percent of the student population choosing the in-person option. I think we've got about 5%, something like that right now. I think we had about 40 students.
5% remote, correct?
Yes, 5%, excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry, I read the question the wrong way. Yes, 5% remote, 95% are coming to school. That could change, but we have asked multiple times, tried to call people, contact people, get clear on their answer. There's a few people on the fence at this point. Some of you may be, and that's fine. But that's what we're coming down to right about now. Sorry, I'm seeing this. Will we ever be considering more than 2 periods each day for the school year? Not this year. I mean, we as many of you know, we have battled back and forth on different ideas for our schedule. We finally hit on this one that maximizes the amount of time kids will have at school, but minimizes the number of changes. We did look at could we come back with a 7-period day? And realistically, that is too much mixing between cohorts and populations. So we decided that this would get kids in school, but the 2 periods a day are 80 minutes each. So that's essentially 2 Cunha periods. So, they are getting a fairly reasonable amount of instruction. I know it's not in some ways the remote instruction because they can Zoom every day and see their teacher twice a week that way. In some ways it's a little bit better, but I think the in-person teaching is going to make a big impact. But we're talking about April and May. We're not going to change it between now and then at the end of school.
All right. In regards to the travel restrictions, I got the newest information from the California Department of Public Health, and it is they are recommending a 10-day quarantine from coming anywhere more than 120 miles from your home.
There's a question about schedules. Do we have schedules since students may not know where the classrooms are?
Can I jump in real quick, Mr. Bartel? There's
Please.
several questions related to the Hazel Health. Is it okay for me to put the link to the slides in the chat so families can link to those videos and links for on the slides to help them?
Yeah,
that'd be fine.
Okay.
What I'll do is when I post this up as a YouTube, obviously.
Actually, sorry, before you do that, I actually have that on our website already. Let me just post the link to that.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you, Janice.
Under the return to campus procedures or return to campus guide, you'll see the Hazel Health documents.
Thank you, Janice. Okay. So there was a question about schedules. I sent out in the packet a couple nights ago a list of all the teachers and their classrooms so students can remember where their actual classroom is. We're going to be posting that up around campus. So make sure your student knows at least where their first period class, who their first period teacher is, and make sure they know the room number, and that will tell them what building it is. It's D building or A building or E building or C building. And then that will tell them what the map that we sent out will have the entrance that they're supposed to go to. Also, if any parents signed up, I believe, and stop me if I'm wrong, anybody, I believe that if you signed up for the parent portal that we sent out information about, you should be able to see your child's schedule through that. So let's see. Yes, the screening, children have to be screened to come in. So if they don't have anything, one thing we'll do first is we'll check and see if a student has already been cleared, even if they don't have any proof. So we have that as information we have in a spreadsheet. So we can do that. But if they haven't been screened at all by parents, then we will do the screening. That's how it'll work. The Chromebook, I think you can go tomorrow for to the library here and check out a Chromebook if you need to. Obviously, it's not so much a concern for 7th and 8th grade parents because they've got another week or 2 weeks to go before we return, before they come onto the schedule. But yes, you can get it here. If a student needs to check one out during the day, we can maybe arrange that. But obviously they'll be with their teachers, and we don't have kids running around, loose. But we can probably make some kind of arrangement if needed. Yes. Okay.
James, we have a question about, I see here about kids talking to their friends outside of class. I mean, obviously, do we know that kids are going to probably try to talk to their friends between classes? Yes. But one of the reasons why we really adopted this schedule is to limit as much as possible the coming and going of students from one classroom to another. So our message we're going to give to students is when you get out of your first or second period class, whatever your first class is to go directly to your next class, to use the restroom, to wash your hands. It's not a social time. We don't want any gatherings, which is one of the 4 pillars. We want them to go directly to class.
Yes, and so a lot of that will take up some time. Yes, they will probably be able to socialize with each other, but they are within the same cohort, which helps break down the numbers to a smaller number of kids. There's a question about when we go back to school. So just to be very, very clear with everybody, because I know this question keeps coming up, and I put the information out there, but it's hard to wrap your head around. Okay, so 6th graders are coming back in person on April 5th. They will start with that new schedule, and there'll just be 6th grade teachers here and 6th graders. That's it. 7th graders and 8th graders will continue to Zoom on the current schedule they have now. It may be that some of your teachers, 7th and 8th graders, will give you asynchronous work for a few days because they'll be teaching 6th graders as well, and they can't do the same. They can't do both at the same time. The second week, April 12th, that's when our 7th graders come back. So they will join the 6th graders. And so it'll be 6th graders and 7th graders on campus. 8th graders will continue to Zoom on their old schedule with their 8th grade teachers. Again, some of those teachers may pull out, give them asynchronous work while they, for that week, while they work with the 7th graders. And then finally on April 19th, our 8th graders come in, and then we're all on campus at that point. And the Zoom schedule, the remote schedule we've been on, that comes to an end for everybody, and we're all on the new hybrid in-person schedule. I hope that makes sense to everybody. And keep asking questions if you need clarification on that, because we can certainly help, and I'm glad to help you figure it out. Okay. So there's a question about teachers Zooming into classes. We have 3 remote teachers. And so the kids who will have those, so that's not that many out of our faculty. And so the kids who have those teachers will go to class, and they will be there on screen. And we'll let you know who all those are. So I'm not going to go through right now exactly which teacher and why, and so on and so forth, but that will all become clear. But students will need to be on campus because they've got their other period to go to. At some point, some of those teachers might return. So it's not like we want to, turn that into a remote program, and so on. So we've got just most of our teachers, the vast majority of our teachers will be here on campus. And let's see. Some questions that are not repeated. So for kids who are staying remote, we are working on a whole schedule for each one of them to meet with certain of their teachers they'll be able to continue to meet with who are remote. And we will have remote learning coordinators, some of whom will teach the subjects to them They are going to stay on their current teachers' rosters, and will be able to follow what they're doing on things like School Loop and Google Classroom. And they will meet with remote learning coordinators to make sure that they're keeping up with their work. So that's how the remote program is going to work. And we will be individually letting each family know what their schedule of when to meet with their remote learning teachers, when to meet with teachers they currently have on remote, if they have any, and so on and so forth. So they will know exactly who to talk to and what to do. Those people will help instruct them in core subjects, and will help them keep up with their work, help tutor, interpret, make contact with the teacher so the teacher understands work to be given, work to be turned in, a whole planning and coordinating together on how to serve the remote kids. Because our teachers are spending the entire day teaching in person. It's a complicated business, and they'll be all over the place. And it was the decision of the school to really concentrate on bringing our kids back as much as possible. So our remote kids are going to be staying with their teachers in the sense of being able to follow their work, but then meeting with people who can concentrate and give them attention directly and help them with the curriculum. Let's see. There's a question about remote PE. I'm not sure what that question is. Did anybody see what that was?
I think they're just asking if there would be remote PE.
PE is in person. Remote PE, for remote students, I think that, well, again, it's the same situation. The PE teacher will work with their remote learning teacher to make sure that they are able to follow along what's going on with PE. They're probably going to have physical activity logs in some way to bring back to the PE teacher the fact that they're doing physical education outside the classroom or outside the field, I guess.
I just want to jump in. I see one question in the chat about what percentage of teachers are vaccinated. And I know because I heard Dr. Bhatia mention it yesterday, she said somewhere around 68% of teachers were vaccinated at their last count. So most of us are getting vaccinated quite rapidly and frequently, but she did mention yesterday, just because I knew that data, she said around 68% of teachers were vaccinated, double vaccinated at this point.
I just got my second vax today, so I think a lot of people are in the same situation. So those are coming in. There's a question about the library after school. So our library is not going to be open for that kind of thing. So we are not going to be able to just have kids come hang out at the library after school. However, we are working with our partners, the Boys and Girls Club, to provide different kinds of care or supervision or learning for kids maybe on the others who are on the home cohort when the other cohort's in session, but maybe can't go home, or after school care. So I've been in touch with them. I haven't seen their plan and what they're offering, but that is going to be one of our most important supports for our students is the Boys and Girls Club.
James, we've got a question here about basically like the pace of curriculum. Do you want to talk about it, or I can talk about it, about really our focus for bringing kids back to campus?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so there's a question here talking about, are they going to be expected to cover, all the work that they've missed during this time in a pandemic? And I think I speak for everyone at Cunha, teachers included, that we just want to get our kids back on campus and get them back into a sense of normalcy. We realize that the current situation is a difficult one, but I think more than anything else, we want to get them connected to school again and part of the Cunha community. So hope that helps.
Okay. There's a question about the parent portal. I think the district, there's a question about whether the district's going to send out another invite to the parent portal. I could probably send that out fairly soon. That information and get that to you. I want everybody to get on the parent portal as well. I think I mentioned already what your 7th grader will be doing when your 6th grader is in school in person. Your 7th grader will be following the same Zoom schedule they're following right now. until it's their turn to come back to school on the 12th. Ben, where do you go? What entrance point do you go to if you are in PE in the morning?
They're going through the D building entrance. Yeah, so through
out there to
Kelly.
straight across to the quad, right?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, and all PE classes will be outside.
So there's quite a few questions about asynchronous assignments outside of class time, and maybe Mr. Barnes or Mr. Bartell, if you could speak to that. Just clarifying that teachers will be teaching, even though your child will only be attending part day, your teacher will be teaching the full day. So asynchronous versus Zoom, et cetera, in the afternoon, if we could speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, to some extent, that's going to be depending on the teacher, but we have, for instance, Wednesday is our asynchronous day, the full day for that. So there will be assignments for that, but also because, you know, the teacher will see their student for that one day or in the week, even though it's 80 minutes, there's going to be homework. So you could call it asynchronous if you want to, or you can call it homework now that we're back in person, but the teachers undoubtedly will be assigning work that students can and should be doing on the times when they are not actually in class. And that's going to depend on the teacher and what their curriculum is like. Our curriculum is not going to move super fast, both just because of the pace of how our schedule works, but also I think we're going to spend a lot more time really on trying to get students back engaged in school and trying to make them feel like they're part of the school again. You know, kind of the trying to begin healing some of the damage to our social emotional state. We think that that's very, very important. And yet we know the curriculum is very important, and we know there's going to be learning loss and all those things. But our first, you know, we're towards the end of the school year. I think our first mission is to get students comfortable and return to school and begin feeling part of this again and kind of normalcy.
There's also a question about what to do on Fridays if your child does not have 0 period, and whether or not it's an option to Zoom from home for 7th period so they don't have to. So if we could address what to do on Fridays.
Yeah, on Fridays, we're looking at a couple of things. First of all, yeah, I recognize that you've got a teacher, right? Maybe that you'll go to just one 80-minute class. But that is a class, and the teacher will expect you to be there, and there's work to be done. So you'll want to go to school. So we've been talking about having as many activities as we can come up with during 0 period. So that's something that I'm planning out. Teachers have been talking about it. Our leadership has been talking about it. Things for kids to do on 0 period. So that way, if your student's coming for class, they're not going to feel like, well, I just came, now I'm leaving, but there'll be things for them to do. But that's still under construction, but we'll get there. There's a question about who's going to be in the room for teachers that's zooming in. We will have a substitute there to run everything and make sure that the class is going smoothly. There's a question who the learning coordinators are. We are hiring them. Most of them are retired teachers. That's what we're trying to get. Many of them have been teachers here or in the district and are highly qualified at teaching their subjects. So that's going to be very, very helpful to us. Yeah.
Can you pull up the slide again about A and B, just our schedule, so that families can see the slide one more time?
Sure, no problem. Let me get that set up. There you go. So yeah, so that's our schedule. So there were some questions. There was a question that was about making sure that we're clarifying, because there was an earlier schedule proposal sent out that said kids would come to school and Zoom with their teachers all day. That is not what's happening. There won't be any Zooming going on when your student comes to school. Your student's going to come to school to be in class with their teacher teaching that subject. So if you come to school first period and you have English language arts, you're going to be with your current English language arts teacher and having class with them. Same teacher you got on the computer right now. Second, third period, maybe you got a history class with that same teacher, and so on. And that teacher is going to repeat that to the other half of the class. Somebody asked about how many students are in each period. Our normal limit that we have is no more than 35. We don't usually have 35 students in a class. Mostly we have closer to 30. And then we're splitting that in half, or close to it as we can, right? With the cohort A through L, cohort B, M through Z. Anyway, and so we're balancing those as best we can. So we might have 18 and 14 or something like that in each different cohort, but we're trying to keep that under 18 and 19 at most in a classroom. About half of, no more than about half of what our regular class size would be. Let's see, any other questions that we need to know? Remote learners know their plan before spring break. We will be working on things throughout spring break, so you'll be hearing from us. I'm not exactly sure what day, but you'll be hearing from us as the week goes on. Hopefully you'll hear before April 5th. That would be good. Zooming from home, we want students here because even if they're going to be in a class with their peers doing activities, and in addition, they got another class to go to. So we want students to come to school. All right. District issued Chromebook that Half Moon Bay High School graduate had. I don't know whether it is any, I think they cleared all the district information off of those. So I think it would end up being kind of like a personal device. It probably wouldn't work. You try it though. There's questions about quarantine and so on. Only if we have, there's certain guidelines about what an outbreak would be that would cause us to go back into remote learning. It's fairly specific and there would be a lot of people who would be out that would cause us to go back into remote learning. And yes, the remote learning coordinator will be functioning as a tutor. We're trying to get people who are social studies, science, math, English backgrounds so they can tutor the kids. And we'll try to set up special days. So science day and the kids can be tutored directly by their coordinator. Okay, and we are trying to hold the line, everybody, on which cohort you're in. I know some prefer the morning, some prefer the afternoon. So we're not making general switches. If you want to let us know you prefer a switch, that is fine. We'll take that under advisement. It could be that something could cause that to happen. But right now we're not doing switches just because we can't manage to have everybody swapping around. It's just the logistics of it is too much. So, but please let us know if you'd like to. And, you never know what might happen. Okay. We're going to be doing all kinds. No state testing. We're not going to do CASP testing this year. We will probably use our existing Senate Bill 89, SB 98 required testing to make up for that. And we already are doing so. That will at least get us through this year. When will classes be complete again? Well, this year we're going to stick to the 6-foot distancing. They just announced some changes to that maybe 3 feet are okay. But we have just set up our whole school, our whole schedule, everything for that. And we're only talking a couple of months of school. So we're going to continue with that for safety as well, we don't want to rush things. Just as soon as things start looking good, we don't want to rush to have everybody jumping around and not social distancing and doing what they need to do and push the pandemic back again. So with next year, that'll be a whole different animal. The district will at some point give its plans for next year, but the situation continues to evolve. They don't want to make a plan that becomes obsolete by the time we get to August. So I suspect we'll be much more together again at that point. I think we're getting close to their time. I don't know if I've answered every question. I don't think we could have. There's a lot of questions out there. Feel free to email me or Mr. Bartel or the counselors or whoever you want to get answers to any of the questions we didn't get to today. I just want to thank every single one of you for being here, supporting your kids, asking questions. Hopefully I haven't left you with more questions than answers, but we'll try to keep communicating and let everybody know what they need to know in order to have a safe and fun reopening of school. So thank you very much, everybody out there.
And thank you, everyone.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Have a great night, and we'll have one last day before spring break tomorrow.